Hey guys, Veebat here with another V Plays, and this is going to be a discussion about state of the game, future developments, and stuff like that. And one of the things I think we really need to talk about is the release of this development plans for World of Warplanes 2019. Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of stuff coming down the pipe, and we've already got an indication of that with the update for the 25th, which came in the form of update 2.0.12, which just became active today, actually. So that introduced the Russian bombers, although the event isn't going to go live for another 7 days and some change, but it looks like we got TU2, TU10, and TU12 are going to be available to us. And I guess the Russian bombers essentially are going to be very similar to what we saw with the PE2 line. You're going to get some fixed forward firing armament, nothing super spectacular, a couple of cannons, maybe some machine guns to go along with it to give you the ability to kind of pick on other bombers if need be, or just catch a heavy that's on low health. So it just gives somebody something to think about. While the Su-10 is going to get 8 1,000-pound bombs. I know the German bomber is going to get 4 2,000-pound bombs. So how is this? There, it's the same thing, right? Yeah, but you can spread this out, right? Some targets don't need 2,000 pounds of bombs, so this will allow them to be able to take a garrison a lot easier, I think. In addition to that, it's going to get a set of 4 20mm cannons facing rearward on the Su-10, especially if somebody's coming in from above, because if I'm not mistaken, 2 of the cannons are oriented kind of in an upward direction on the dorsal. And what I'm really interested in is the fact that they said that they've already introduced some aircraft for the USSR and German US tech trees, but in particular, they said that by the end of 2019, we're going to see the US bombers and the B-29 Stratofortress, or what is it, Superfortress, sorry. So I have actually stopped converting experience to my crew on the B-32 and I started flying it again. Because I want the B-29, it's going to be something I'll keep in the hangar. Here's where it gets fun. When they talk about the US bombers, they say that they aren't going to disclose the top 2 models yet. But they said suffice to say they're not your regular aircraft, so there's a little bit of a hint. And although they indeed existed and flew in real life, we believe the aviation history enthusiasts will easily guess what we're talking about. Now, I'm not an aviation history enthusiast. I mean, I enjoy it, but I'm not the guy, right? There's people that are more knowledgeable than I am. But I did some Google searching, and some things that I think would hit this mark of something that flew, maybe not in combat, maybe just a test version, but would hit this realm of the unique and interesting airplane that World of Warplanes likes to throw out there. Here's my guess at the Tier 9. Ready? The XB-35. So the XB-35 actually flew in 1946. The thing it's real. 4 pusher prop engines. If the version I saw, there's actually a version where it's got counter rotating props. And what's even nastier about it is the thing was armed with an incredible array of self-defense armament, to include 20 50 cal machine guns or 20mm cannons carried in 6 turrets, 2 along the aircraft center line, 4 above and below the outer wings, and 4 in the Stinger tail cone. Now, what I believe is that these little bubbles that you see on the wings are actually where those turrets are, and on the underside it's actually mirrored as well. See if I can find another picture. Well, I got a picture right here. You can see there's the bubble underneath, so I have a strong feeling that that's where the turrets would have gone, and they didn't put them on this version. There's those counter-rotating props I was talking about. This also kind of hits the realm of the speed characteristics we're looking for. So I know that Tier 9 not being a jet, that's a little bit weird, right? But It makes sense. You got counter-rotating props. It's going to be enough power. Plus, you're looking at 393 miles per hour. Now, is that with like max boost speed, or is that its sustained speed? Who knows? But I do know that the B-29 cruises around 300 historically, and the B-32 in-game cruises at around 200. So you're seeing these incremental increases as you go up in tier, which makes sense. And it still carried a fairly impressive bomb load, but we all know that these get manipulated in the game mechanics in order to kind of hit that match of what would make sense for the aircraft. So since this is 100% theoretical, they can mess with that a little bit more. So what's going to be the tier 10? Well, it turns out that they actually made a jet-powered version of this as well and changed the design slightly. So here it is, the YB-49. Now this foregoes having all the turrets on the dorsal, spine, underbelly, and the wings, but it still gets tail gunner on it. But you're going to get much higher speeds out of this aircraft, and it's pretty decently sized, so you're probably looking at a lot of hit points, and the max speed goes all the way up to around 493 with a cruise speed of 365. This hits those cues, in my opinion. I could be totally wrong, but this is my guess. For the record, if this ends up being true, awesome, I hit the mark. But otherwise, I'll be interested to see what they put in either way. So I am going to start working on the American bombers. I am not that interested in the Russian bombers, to be totally honest with you. I looked at the Tu-2, the Tu-10, Tu-12, and the Su-10, and while they're neat, I don't feel like they're going to have an advantage in any particular realm. I think that the Ju-287 and the EF-131 are going to be pretty vicious, and they're going to kind of fall into that high speed realm. But this, I think these are going to be kind of like your behemoths, and if you're going to fly a bomber, you might as well get the biggest, heaviest, nastiest thing you can, and then you can fly with your buddies and they can kind of escort you as you lumber across the battlefield. So I'm really looking forward to that. Something else that they said was there's a referral program getting kicked off, and that's going to introduce the P-82B Twin Mustang. There were rumors of this thing existing all the way back in the closed beta. In fact, it might have been in the closed beta. I can't remember, but it's in the old wiki page that is kind of outdated now. But they had an image for it, but they really don't have too much data. Whoop. And let's get you back up here. Okay, so the Twin Mustang, if you're not familiar, was actually produced. They built 272 of these things, and unlike the BF-109F, which was two 109s tied together, one of the BF-109's cockpits was disabled, right? So if you've flown that airplane, you'll know what I'm talking about. In the Twin Mustang, it was meant to continue to operate as a fighter. It was just longer range by having two of these engines, two cockpits, two fuel tanks. It would give it a lot more capacity and range, and then you could kind of double up on a lot of the things that would allow it to get that longevity, including drop tanks. And it even had the ability to mount on here, which is what I was scrolled down here for to begin with, was, there we go, gun armament. Still gets the 650 cals, but can mount 25 5-inch rockets. 25. I would love to be able to do that. Or 4 1,000-pound bombs. I'm not sure if they would actually put that in the game or not, but the idea of it is neat enough. Unfortunately, I'm not sure how the referral program works. If it's anything like any of the referral programs I remember from World of Tanks, it's going to be relatively labor intensive, and to find somebody to join now to enter in with this mentorship program, like what if I have one of my friends join now, or I've been playing for years, I'm supposed to find some other random person? I mean, it would be great to be able to do this, but I'm not sure what the time dedication is going to be and if there's a way to get this aircraft in another way. But I'm glad it's being introduced. I'm just wary as to how easy it's actually going to be. Anyways, so there's some other quality of life things that are going on here. They're trying to make the game more entertaining, trying to bring more people in. That's great. Another thing that I'm kind of excited about is that the Horton 229 is going to be coming into the game. And if you're unfamiliar with the Horton 229, this thing is the German flying wing. It was part of the 3-1000 requirement. It was supposed to carry a 1,000-kilometer bomb, travel a distance of 1,000 kilometers at a speed of 1,000 kilometers per hour. 620 miles per hour, and was supposed to be equipped with two 30 millimeter Mark 108 cannons. I'm not sure they'll actually put Mark 108s in it because they said here that this is going to be one of the few snipers in the game. I can think of quite a few snipers in the game, so I'm wondering how this is different because we already have the Key 93, the BF 110C6, the Yak 7 through I 215. We also have the TA 152. So all of those things I consider kind of sniper planes, long range, hard hitting guns that you can hit, with high velocity shells. So is this going to get two Mark 103s maybe? Yeah, sure, I could consider that. But to say it's one of a few snipers is a little bit undersold here. But it is going to be a fighter. At least that's what I have determined. If you guys look at your I'm going to pull this up. It's going to take a hot minute. If you pull up your missions on this main page, as soon as this loads, there we go. Combat reconnaissance, and you scroll down to premium aircraft. There it is. They were showing this early on, and as soon as I saw it, I immediately started Googling, German flying wings, and the Horton 229 came up, and it has the same shape and everything. It's not as big as you would think it would be being a flying wing. It's actually fairly small. It's a reasonable size, but they have it listed as a fighter because the requirements. It was supposed to be able to carry 1,000 pounds in bombs, travel 1,000 kilometers, and travel at 1,000 kilometers an hour. Is this gonna be the same capability? Like, is this gonna be able to travel that fast? And is it going to have that bomb capacity? Because if it does, it's as far as I am recalling while I'm talking, the only fighter that would have bombs, or is it just not going to have bombs? And they're just going to give it those two cannons, which you can kind of see teasing away at the front edge of the aircraft right here. But I'll be interested to see how that plays out. So that's awesome. I'm glad that they're introducing new aircraft. I've actually looked at, there was a few other aircraft being introduced that were mostly low tier, but another one that caught my eye was the Saab J21R. And we'll go ahead and look for you, the Saab. And it looked very similar to the Key 94-1 with this pusher prop design, but it doesn't have a puller in the front. So it very much looks very similar, right? But what was crazy about it was that it had a huge air-to-ground loadout that it could carry on it. It also had one 20 millimeter cannon and 450 cals. So that's pretty good. I'd be happy to fly this plane if I could grab one. And then you'll see here it had an assortment of different rocket arrangements it could possibly carry. So they would be neat if we could get kind of another multi-role in the game, especially from this other nation grouping, but I'm not sure it feeds in anything much like the Chinese and the French lines do, where it's just excuse me, all premium aircraft. So we'll see how that plays out in the long run. But new stuff. I'm glad that they've been working on things in the background. They also were talking about Specialist 2. I'm not sure what that actually entails, but they hint at, in the bottom line here, the ability to change an aircraft significantly. For example, a quick and maneuverable light fighter can become a heavily armed fighter for securing air corridors or even bomber interceptors. So does this mean that we'll have different customization options open up? Like, I know that there was an F-86 Sabre that had 20 millimeter cannons instead of machine guns. So is that going to be an option now? And if it is, how does that not break the game? Or are you just talking about the option of, hey, that ME262HG2 at tier 9? I know you really like the 20 millimeter cannon, so we'll allow you to keep it specialized so you can use the downgraded cannons. Is that what you're talking about? I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure if this is just going to be like a money suck or if this is going to actually be something really beneficial, but time will tell. I'm not going to go over all of the patch notes. I kind of hit on them a little bit, but I'm sure you've already seen in the store. The Doe 335 is going to be available for sale, or is available for sale. Frankly, I think the BV 203 is a much better plane, but it is there for those of you who missed the opportunity. All right, scrolling down. This is going to be nice, reducing prices for modules as well as aircraft for experience and for cash, I'm assuming. Oh no, reduce price in experience. That'll be nice because the grind was pretty heavy on those, although the economy in this game is way more forgiving than the other wargaming products, so I'm still happy. They're changing some stuff with the spotting mechanics. Honestly, I haven't delved enough into it to be able to speak to it intelligently, but that's good that they're introducing more mechanics to it, but I don't like that there's a 20% bonus to the concealment of seasonal camo, because I feel as though there should be even a slight increase then to the universal camo, because now you're kind of enticing people to spend even more for those who want permanent camo. I'm not a big fan of that. So, anyways, I digress. Do some balancing changes. It is going to be nice that the 109G will get more accuracy. It was a great plane. And some more camouflage options so people can spend more money again. But I like this one, fixing that issue where when you click on an airfield to respawn at, and the enemy takes another sector unrelated to that airfield, and when you hit respawn, you respawn back at your default spawn. They got rid of that. Unless you lose the airfield that you're trying to respawn at, you won't default to the original spawn location. And the only other thing I was really happy about was that my B-32 bomb bays animation is actually corrected, and I stand corrected on this. The bomb bays were actually clipping and separating from the airframe a little bit. They weren't moving up the side of the fuselage properly. I thought the bomb bays were supposed to be inside. They actually did go on the outside of the plane. I did not know that, so I had to look it up and check some photos. So that's accurate, but being away from the side of the airplane and clipping through the wings and the engine, not accurate. So I'm glad they fixed that. But it's little things like that that I think a lot of us were hoping that they would fix, including bombers spawning and crashing into mountain peaks. That's going to be a lot more. That's going to be a lot better. Or when the bombers would spawn into your spawn areas, that way you'd crash into a bomber as it was spawning just by respawning into the battle. So it is nice that they're fixing a lot of those things. But I figured I should address this stuff as it's coming up, and hear what you guys have to say and what your opinions are. But that's the stuff that's coming down the pipe for those of you who haven't had the chance to log in the past couple of days or check up on the news. So hope you guys find this beneficial, and as always, I'll catch you on the next one.